Hello, listeners, and welcome back to another edition of the CitizenWolf audio podcast. This is episode 10. You're currently listening to the first double-digit episode. How about that? 2 years of recording here and there and everywhere. I've actually got two double digits, which is pretty amazing. And once again, I've gotten clear vision on the podcast. I've threatened him with violence just to come on the show once again. Thank you for joining me once again. It was an absolute pleasure. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me again.
Well, I didn't actually threaten him, of course, listeners. It's just it was such a pleasure having him on last time. I thought I'll have him on once again, talk about more stuff and complain about more stuff as well, probably as well. So we'll be getting to that. Last episode we did cover quite a few bits and pieces, but of course we simply did not have time to actually cover absolutely everything. So I guess this would be like the extra. This would be episode 8.5, I guess, I suppose. So it would be more a case of like unfinished business, if you want to call it that. Talking about Derpy Brew and posting artwork on the internet, why it's a bit of a minefield and all that stuff. So, if for people who are listening on the last episode, people might have said one of the topics was cut short. As I said, we at the time, myself and Clear Vision, did not have the time to actually properly cover this particular topic in great detail. Of course, simply we just did not have time, and it's you can easily talk about it for several episodes, several hours if you really wanted to. Talking about in relation to how Derpy Brew basically is no longer the premier place to post MLP artwork, and basically what happened a few years ago. The Aryanne Controversy?
Controversy, fiasco, whatever you want to call it, really.
Sorry to interject so violently at this moment of the podcast. Sorry for breaking the flow, as it were. But during the editing phase of the podcast and listening back to the particular section of the podcast, I've decided I haven't done a very good job summarising the Aryanne controversy very well, especially to newcomers who might not know what this Aryanne controversy is all about. I didn't go into quite a bit of the crucial context needed, at least at the basic level, to find out who this Aryanne character is and where this character actually came from. Now, Aryanne, the character, is a Pony OC original character that was created by somebody on the forum website known as 4chan. Now, 4chan is probably one of the most horrendous websites you can ever come across on the internet. It's sort of a no-holds barred kind of forum where you can post pretty much anything, and you can find all sorts of depraved content, including racism, horrible videos, and God knows what else. That's just the tip of the iceberg, so I won't go much further into that really. And Aryanne, the character, is basically a Pony OC that was created by a member of one of these boards on 4chan, probably the Pony board most likely, as a joke. And basically the Pony character has a swastika cutie mark on its flank, so I wish I was joking on that. Little love heart with a swastika in the middle, and that was how Aryanne was born. And don't know who the person came up with it, but like most people agree, this character came from 4chan. Now, the excuse is, I'm going to call it an excuse, is mainly the character was created as a joke. But I find that really hard to believe. I tend to think it was more of a character just to deliberately stir controversy, and like perhaps as a means to infiltrate the lower echelons of the MLP fandom, so people can latch on to that particular swastika emblem, symbol, hate symbol, whatever you want to call it, and do all sorts of horrible, despicable things. But I didn't do a very good job explaining that very well in the original recording, but I just wanted to clarify where that Aryanne character came from if people are a bit confused. So, yeah, do apologise for that, folks. It was this was basically, for people who don't know what it was basically about, a couple of years ago, Derpy Brew got itself embroiled in like quite a massive controversy in regards to people posting basically Nazi artwork on the website. This is one of those like really, I suppose, like really topics you've got to give I suppose, a lot of thought over simply because of how politically charged it is, basically. I don't want to go into it in massive detail, really. It's worth talking about at least a little bit simply because of how the controversy basically did a lot of damage to the website in terms of its reputation and why a lot of people no longer post on there, basically. For a bit of context, I'll put the link to the article in the show notes. Derpy Bureau was basically allowing users to post Nazi pony artwork, if you can believe that. Where did that character come from? Was it 4chan who come up with that? I'm not entirely sure. Is that where the character originated from?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I am aware that it kind of started out as a joke, as a parody of sorts, and for the most part, for a few years, like people know that Aryanne existed, but there wasn't like a huge fuss over it. And then the whole controversy happened where it was put into the spotlight, and it put Derpy Warrior into a bit of a situation where they had to decide, okay, are we going to allow Ariane Art to stay on Derpy Warrior, or should we get rid of it? And in short, they tried to please everyone, and in doing that, they pleased no one, and they annoyed a lot of people.
It was a case of, I think, they were basically saying they were going to police that kind of artwork more frequently because of the backlash from some of its users. It sort of backtracked on its own policies, and then
Multiple times, actually.
multiple times was it? They tried to sit on, as you said, they tried to sit on the fence, and like it ended up blowing up in their face, and like they were saying they're going to start putting restrictions on like stuff like the swastika and things like that. But because they didn't do that, they changed their mind on like flip-flop multiple occasions, and that people who felt threatened, I suppose, or didn't want to be associated with the website or their policies anymore, they decided to shut up shop. A lot of artists decided to. I think that's kind of why I'm not quite keen on Derpy Bureau. Even they didn't take a side. I suppose they don't decide to police the website properly or not police the website, moderate the website properly. They basically came across as cowards, and I think it kind of was, whichever way you look at it. And because of that happened a few years ago, a lot of artists decided to stop posting on the website. I should ask you this really before I talk any further. What's your view on people posting that kind of artwork? Do you believe people should be able to post whatever they like, or do you think there should be some limitations in some way on what you can post on the website?
It's honestly hard to say because there were good arguments from both sides. On one hand, you have people saying if you're going to restrict stuff, then where does it stop? And what about other morally dubious things?
Right, yeah.
So you have that on one hand. On the other hand, I feel like artists shouldn't be afraid to express themselves. But you essentially have those two sides. And my opinion of it at the time, I was mostly upset over the fact that artists' wishes kind of went out the window. And as many big artists started submitting DMPs in protest and also removing their work from the website, alternative borrows came up, and people started importing stuff from Derpy Borrow in an attempt to save it, I guess. Not Derpy Borrow, but save the artwork itself.
Yeah, as like an alternative archive, I suppose. It was for me. I think it was not the actual artwork itself that like irked me, I suppose. Like even if you wanted to go with the joke argument, it's a pretty lousy joke at the end of the day. But it's again, when it comes to stuff like this, like when people posting like swastikas and things like that, stuff like that. You've really got to be extremely careful with stuff like that. With that kind of iconography that has all those connotations attached to it, where you do get these nutcases who do latch onto these symbols. I'm more with stuff like that. I'm erring more on the side of I think you you got to heavily restrict that, I think, personally. Or if you really want to post artwork with those symbols clearly in view, you've got to have a damn good reason to do that, other than just for, oh, it's a joke. The admins sort of like freedom of speech. Like, I can't really be bothered to weigh up the pros and cons in either direction, which really irked me, I think. But yeah, that's the reason why Derpy Boo is sort of become what I think that's why the website's kind of like sort of in like a bit of a rut, I suppose. It's sort of in terms of its like engagement and the community. It's harboured. What's the word? A malaise, I suppose. I don't know what your experience is with the community on Derpy Brew. For me, it's not that positive, unfortunately. But there you go.
I suppose the short answer to this is kind of like what community,
right. That sums it up.
and the long answer is I guess that kind of is, but most people kind of just use it to just browse art. Some of it being the more questionable kind. Honestly, think that was the case even before this happened. I definitely feel like Derpy Burrow is a good place for browsing art. It's a good place for um, searching for art, but it's not good for encouraging artist to viewer interaction or vice versa. It never has been. I suppose they never really went in that direction anyway.
So you think these problems was kind of like more ingrained before all this controversy happened?
Yeah.
So your experiences as an artist on that website, then, like in terms of engagement with your art, has it been generally a positive experience, or is it a bit of a negative experience, or is it more of a mixed bag? What would you say?
Funnily enough, I'd actually say if I was to weigh it out, it's probably positive overall, but the negative stuff sticks with you more, if that makes sense. Like neutral, between neutral and positive, I'd say is my experience, because um, I've had quite a lot of genuinely good comments. I've had my first couple of commissions come from Derpy Borough when I first started. But I suppose other than that, I'm not. I guess that's kind of where the positives end.
Would you say it's still the best place for MLP artwork, or are there other websites that are doing other things better than Derpyberry for posting artwork?
I'd say for credit where credit is due, like the literal posting of artwork itself and nothing else, the experience of it on Derpy Borough is pretty good. And I'd say that because when you upload something, it kind of guides you on what tags you can put on, if that makes sense. Like it'll tell you put on a rating tag, put on a character tag, and as you type, suggestions pop up, which I quite like. It makes tagging a lot easier because you know what's out there as you type. And so okay, I think this tag could be applicable, so I'll add that, and then you just keep going. And I also like that anyone can change the tags, so people can add stuff if they think you've forgotten something, but in a good way. It's just the tags are there to help you get discovered, right? When people are searching for certain things.
Yeah, yes, it is. It is a pretty good system on there. It's a real shame. The site has a lot of really good features, but they sort of squandered a lot of the goodwill, I think, because of what's happened. It's no longer been able to like keep on to like its status as a archival website. A lot of really good artwork has now disappeared, unfortunately, and that was the result of that. What about we were talking about Twitter as well as an alternative as well in the last episode. Like Twitter's not great, is it, for posting artwork? What is the main issues with Twitter? Would you say when it comes to posting artwork?
I'd say like the biggest problem is inconsistency, because you can have something that could do amazingly well and then something else which you put more effort into and might even just be high quality full stop. It can like go under the radar because you didn't post at the right time or something else was going on. Twitter never really was meant to be an art site, but we're using it because there's no better alternative at the moment in terms of artist discovery. That's what I'm trying to work on at the moment, as along with a lot of other artists, like as Mike artist discovery. That's what we mean when we say is a site good to post art on. Like, will it get seen if it's good quality?
Twitter, there's a lot of issues with Twitter. Like what I don't like about Twitter when it comes to artwork is it's sort of it's entirely random. I think I think it has to be some sort of algorithm running in the background where, like, if, as you say, it's inconsistent. That is the key phrase, the key term, I should say. It's the I've seen a lot of people's artwork. Basically, they make a lot of amazing stuff, but they get buried. They get no engagement, whereas some other people who post similar content of similar quality get loads of engagement. It makes absolutely no sense. And of course, you've got like random shadow bans for no particular reason. Of course, they're not going to tell you, are they? They never tell you if your Twitter account gets like shadow banned or like buried for whatever reason. They're not going to tell you, of course. They'll just secretly a ban list where like you don't appear in searches and other malicious things. Like, I've already talked about this in the last episode, where like I've seen this happen to quite a lot of really good artists, and like it's a really unfair, broken system, because like it's not about merit at the end of the day. It's more about luck and whether the algorithm, I should say, favors you in some way or not. It's really bizarre. And like when it comes to stuff like adult content as well, some accounts don't get shadow banned, where others do get shadow banned for posting the same stuff, which makes absolutely no sense. I don't know whether again it's some sort of quota running in the background, but it's a really horrible system, and like you're having to try to like do different things to play the algorithm in your favor. Like, it's not great, is it? I'm really struggling to find positives about the platform, really, because of the issues I've had with it in regards to my account as well. And I think you've also mentioned you sometimes have trouble with engagement. What do you think is the main issue that's affecting artists? What is the main issue that's the problem at fault with Twitter then, do you reckon?
I think it's just, besides the inconsistency of Twitter, definitely doesn't take the quality of the post itself into consideration, because the quote unquote meta, so to speak, although Twitter isn't really a game, it doesn't really make sense to use this term with it, but we'll roll with it. The meta for Twitter is to kind of like strike a balance between something that's high quality enough to gain attention, but not so intense to the point where you couldn't post frequently. And it's not just a Twitter thing. It's just like a social media platform thing. Like, they like it when you post frequently. If you don't post for too long, then you don't get shadow banned, but your stuff won't get pushed out to your followers. And even if your art is seen by your followers, like, they might choose not to engage with it, which is fine. But if that happens too many times, then it will definitely hurt you in the long run. And there's definitely such a thing as like having momentum, I guess, and that's one of the few positive and negative things about Twitter, because it can go both directions. It can be positive. Uh, Example of that is the start of this year for me, personally. Was I'm not sure if I mentioned it in the previous episode, but I was kind of like on the brink of deciding if I wanted to quit art or not. And before I did have two previously unposted pictures to put up, which were from an art pack. First one did relatively okay. It wasn't anything amazing. It was one of Kitty Cat's, and then the second one was a picture of Princess Luna, and that just went viral. Like, it just
Definitely struck gold with that one, didn't you?
yeah, and it was honestly just amazing. Like, it kind of just blew all of my expectations away in terms of like how well it did, and I honestly wasn't expecting it to. It's nice, it's high quality, but it's it's relatively basic compared to other things that I've done, but people liked it. It got shared a lot. A lot of my friends were saying that they saw it posted on a lot of Discord servers, and another friend of mine said that his friend shared it with him, but he's never previously done that before, which was kind of funny and interesting. A lot of people saw it, and it's not just on Twitter. And like that's a positive example of momentum because even after that, my other posts did quite well. So had the post of Luna that did quite well. I had a car pinup commission that did quite well. I mean, it wasn't amazing, but it did well for a car commission. Like it gained like 430 likes and a lot of views and a lot of retweets. People quite liked that one. And then I did some gift art for a task that also did quite well. But he also retweeted it, so that's a contributing factor. But yeah, I had momentum because all of my stuff was doing well. Like there was a lot of eyes on my profile, I assume. But as soon as I didn't have something to post, it kind of just went away.
You saying the meta now? The meta is a perfectly apt phrase, I think, because like you're sort of like you have to strike, as you're saying, you have to strike a balance, like something that's not necessarily low effort, but like where it requires, it's visually appealing enough, but not so intensive that you have to spend an awful lot of time into it. And then like if you get one that strikes the balance just right, or you get more eyes on your profile, and like some of your more recent works get bumped up as well. So that is really handy if whenever that does happen. But it's sort of, I guess a lot of it is pot luck and whether whether you're in the right place at the right time. And like for me, it's a lot of the time, it's a really inconsistent system that like it's sort of you can put an awful lot of work into something and like just for it to get buried, which is unfortunate. But like if you get like one or two that do really well, then maybe you got a chance of like pushing through. But it's a bit of it's a lottery really when it comes to Twitter. I can't see the site improving on that front really. But again, as you say, there's not really much of an alternative. In terms of like the amount of people you can potentially reach and stuff like that. But a lot of people have different views of all the different websites you can post artwork onto, and it's a bit of a it's difficult, I think, which is my gripe really. When it comes to Twitter, you kind of have to be. You have to wear like many hats, I suppose. I don't know whether I've used this metaphor before, where you have to be more of a content creator. I suppose you also have to be like an advertiser, producer, a writer, and pretty much everything. You have to do all sorts of things to get your content noticed. In your case, your artwork noticed, and like it's a lot of the. It can be demoralising when you've put a lot of work into something and like it gets a lukewarm response when it's not the quality that's at fault. It's just simply you weren't favoured by the algorithm. I think that's fair to say. I don't know whether you agree with that sentiment.
I do agree with it, but as I mentioned before, you still have like your own followers as well. Like it can reach them, but they might not like that particular post, which is fine. People have their own preferences, but if your momentum is screwed up as a result of that, then it can be a bit hard to get back in.
So and motivation plays into it as well, I guess. If something doesn't do particularly well, it does affect your motivation to actually make other stuff. And I think a lot of people have that problem where like you can just like you spend an awful lot of time into in a project that you've put a lot of work into, and then like it doesn't do very well, and then like it kills your momentum, as you say, and motivation, crucially, to work on new stuff. But I'm glad you have at least for the time being, at least reconsidered and still decided to carry on. making artwork, at least for the time being, at least. Hopefully, you do decide to carry on further on. Is that common amongst artists? Do you think where it can be a bit of like of a vicious cycle or vicious circle, if you like, when it comes to making artwork, like not feeling motivated and like not wanting to continue?
General motivation, yes, but I'm not sure if to the point of whether you're questioning whether you want to continue or not is common. I'd have no idea. I suppose the reason why it's like that for me is because although I tend to be open-minded with certain things, like there are other things that I kind of don't want to budge too much on, and that's kind of like making compromises that sacrifice quality, things like that. Like I don't want to like handicap my work. That's not quite the right word, but I can't think of anything else. For the sake of just being able to get it out sooner. That's just not my mindset. That's not the reason why I started making art in the first place.
Your self-respect. I guess that you didn't want to make compromises on your self-respect to cater to or do things that you didn't necessarily wanted to do. Which I can commend you for doing that. Like, because a lot of, depending on the artist, I suppose, that you speak to, it can be a case of, depends on the motivation of, I suppose, of the artist. Where like some people are just chasing likes and retweets. Others are just doing it for the clout. Others are just doing it for the prestige, or literally just in it for the money and just making not not just your character here's, but like just artwork that's just like kind of like dime a dozen, or like design literally just to make the most money for the least amount of effort, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, just there's a lot of misconceptions around that sort of thing. Like a lot of people think it's easy money for some reason, because and I this honestly could be a whole episode on its own. But I genuinely get upset over things like this because you can't know any better until you kind of dive in yourself. Like people will see like the top artists who kind of ironically don't need to rely on the algorithm as much because like they have out of their fan base they have like enough dedicated followers who can kind of like kickstart their content, if that makes sense. And then it goes from there. Like they've already got enough of a following that they can probably, you know, get a head start. And the entire stereotype of like the rich furry artist or the rich whatever artist kind of stems from those at the very, very top. And even then, it's not that much money to be made. It's not like ridiculous amounts. It's just a lot of misconceptions and people jumping to conclusions about things that they haven't taken the time to know about. Like it's anything but easy money.
A lot of that you think is like harmful, like to the general, like for the general, I guess not consumer. That's not the right word I'm looking for. For the general layman anyway. It's more damaging as a whole because like only a very very small percentage of artists like make a lot of money on their own, like from stuff like commissions and stuff like that. But I guess it's the notoriety. I guess of some really some individuals who like have known to flout their wares, I suppose, if that's the right phrase, or charging lots and lots of money for commissions and stuff like that. And I guess it's like it's a public perception issue, I suppose. Would you say? How would you go around improving that? Is there anything that people can do to change people's perceptions in terms of like it's, or be more, at least more sympathetic to artists trying to actually make a living off it? Is there anything that people or artists can do to change that?
I'm not sure on on the individual level there's anything that you can do because it's kind of just something that it's something that's just come about from like people talking only about like the highest examples, and by highest examples I mean like what's the most expensive furry commission, or people will look at those artists and those artists only and think, oh wow, this must be easy money, and there's a lot of people who are interested in buying this art from this artist when that's kind of just not the whole story. It's a very small percentage of people paying a small percentage of artists a lot of money, and then everyone else doesn't nearly get as much because they don't have the attention from those clients who are willing to drop ridiculous amounts of money on art. The reason why they're doing that is because they're kind of just paying for the reputation, the name behind the art. It's not necessarily for the art quality itself. But don't take this as big artists don't care about their work. There definitely are artists out there who do care, but that's kind of just. I'm not sure how you'd shake that misconception on an individual level or at all, because people these things kind of get people talking. So
That's the thing. It's like I guess like controversy is always the one that like is controversy is the name of the day in terms of social media, isn't it? Like it's if you're not causing a fuss or a stir, like with like some artists do, like a really small percentage that they get all the attention, and it's sort of like the artist community at large generally suffers for it. It's I guess transparency could be a little thing that people can like go towards alleviating that problem, like people showing the processes of like how you make artwork and things, and like explain like these aren't like 5 minutes, these aren't like artworks that take like 5 minutes, if that makes sense. But then again, it's sort of, I don't know what it's this has been an issue for long since before social media like was even a real thing. It's been like that for literally years. It's sort of like not frowned upon, but like sort of like I guess like a an occupation that's not really as respected, I suppose, but by the public at large. I guess that's part of the issue. I don't know how to really properly go about to combat that really, because I think it's more of it's not considered essential, I suppose. I suppose it's not essential in the normal sense of the word, if that makes sense. But it's more going against all those stereotypes, I suppose, as you were mentioning, trying to going against it all and try to prove that like there's people who actually do deserve more attention than they do get, I suppose. But I'm not entirely sure how you would go about to fix all those issues. It's been an issue been going for a long time, but
I do have something to add actually. I think it's actually nothing to do with artists not being seen as essential, because even when times aren't too great, people will buy stuff that they don't necessarily absolutely need. It's just that it's not seen as desirable, I suppose. Desirable in the sense that you'd want to pay to have it, and that's the problem. Not necessarily because like art in and of itself isn't an essential thing.
it's a topic that you can always look at for hours and hours and like not really get anywhere with it. It's just one of those things, I suppose. But let's talk about some of your artwork then. So, what some of your more recent projects? What are you let's plug some of your wares then for a little bit. What exactly are you working on at the moment with your recent artworks?
Sure. I have two projects going on at the moment, and I have two commissions in on my queue, but I haven't started any of them just yet. I'm just gonna do a personal project, then I'll make a start on those commissions. So, in terms of personal projects, I have one for celebrating 1,000 Twitter followers, although I'm now closer to 2,000 than 1,000 at
Nice.
this point. That is the car pin up with Luna that a lot of people uh, quite like. It's taken a fair bit to get to where it is, but it's taking shape. Current state of it now is that the basic outline of the car is done. Luna herself, the sketch is more or less done. I'll need to move on to the sketch of the background, and then I can probably think about getting it lined and coloured in. And I've also started a new personal project with Octavia, which I posted earlier today. Well, the teaser of, and a lot of people quite like it. And it's just something I'm doing for the sake of doing it. It's not in celebration of anything, or I just felt like drawing her.
It's doing really well at the moment. So it's only 4 hours ago you've posted it. It's already on 8 retweets and 50 likes. So it's doing really well at the moment. So already that I can tell that one's going to do.
Yeah, for a cropped whip sketch, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad at all, is it?
So a couple of comments too.
But yeah, that's awesome. Just read, just reading through the comments through. Great looking squish.
That's something that's been
Especially.
mentioned multiple times.
I think you've struck a chord there. So I don't know about you. I think you have struck a chord with that one. I think.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe people just like the size as well.
We'll have to see. It would be great to see the final product on that. So, how long do you reckon that's going to take you to finish that? Like,
I've spent about 4 and a bit hours on it so far, and some of that was also pre-production. And by pre-production, I mean just like planning what it's actually going to be. So, in all fairness, I've actually not spent that long on it, but at the same time, it's not. It's still quite rough. Although certain things are quite refined, like her face and some parts of her body. Still need to draw on the hands. Still need to. Well, the bathtub is there, but it needs details and the wall behind her. And I don't think it'll take that long because it's not that complex in terms of concept. But shading will always take a while because of how I do it.
so what's the longest stage when you actually when you actually put like a piece together? Which is the stage in a drawing that takes the longest? Is it the shading process, or does it depend on like the theme of the piece that you're going for?
Uh, Not necessarily the theme. It depends on like the complexity of it. Like my shading, it takes a while. I don't want to say it's complicated. I don't want to inflate my ego here, but it does just a lot of aspects to it that I take my time with to get it done properly. But if like the sketch itself is going to be complicated, then that will take more time. Example of that would be some of my car pin-ups. The sketch for Formula One piece with Scooslu took ages. I'm not even gonna.
Oh yeah, we covered that one in the last episode. Like if you want to look at how detailed that is, it's pretty pretty crazy. If you want to how long that take to put all them little details on. But yes, carry on.
I'll just leave it at some car pin-ups. The sketch itself takes much longer than the shading. It's actually kind of a relief when I get to the shading part because that's my favourite bit.
Do you think like the actual drawing part of the drawing is actually the most difficult part compared to the shading part, or
Yeah, because it can be a bit daunting to look at a blank canvas, even though there's tools to help you visualize stuff. Uh, it's just starting out that's hard, but once things start to take shape, it becomes a lot easier. Picture things in your mind a lot better.
if so, what sort of planning process do you go through when you come to think of like I want to draw that? Is it something that do you have like a bank of ideas that you draw from when you actually want to like make a piece, or do you just think of an idea and then just run with it? How do you go about it when you're making like just a regular piece?
I do have like a bank of ideas written down in note form. I can always refer to. I definitely have a lot of ideas for car pin-ups that I'd like to do this year. Uh, I do hope that I can eventually get a bit quicker with them, just because I have a lot of good ideas that I'd want to get out there, and I I do think that if I was to post a bit more often, it would definitely help me as someone who doesn't post very often. But in terms of like my overall process, it again also depends on what it is. If it's something that's a bit more uh, thought of in the moment, then I won't be doing too much pre-planning. I kind of just decide the pose, decide what the character's going to be doing, and kind of go from there. The Octavia piece is an example of that, as well as any other things that I want to draw attention to. But if I'm doing something like a piece with a more elaborate background, or if there's like a certain theme to it, then I'll be a bit more uh, thorough and careful with my pre-planning. Like I'll decide. the pose, I'll make several 3D drafts of the scene just to compare different um, compositions. Um, I'll pick which one I like the best. I might even ask a couple of friends uh, which one they like better in terms of the composition or just the general idea. And once I know what I'm doing, that's when I actually get into it. So um, I find that if you plan things, it goes a lot better.
Have you ever taken an idea like off one of your friends of like, oh, well, that's a brilliant idea, and like decided to run with it? Is there any particular one that you decided to go with that route instead?
Uh, no, actually, I can't think of if I've ever done that.
But your friends sometimes have contributed to um, the idea process, if you like, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
So you think like if you're ever not sure of how to proceed with an idea, you sometimes like ask your friends for input on certain things, and then decide to take it from there.
yep. I might also ask for like opinions when the piece is a bit further on as well. So when it's in the coloring stage, or if it's like in the line art stage, or just before the line art stage, I'll ask if everything looks all right, if everything looks okay, and
How often do you ask for feedback on certain pieces? Is it only on specific times when like you're not sure or anything, or do you ask for feedback on everything that you do?
not everything, but I do ask for feedback quite often. I think me asking for feedback is one of the reasons why I've been able to improve quite a lot in a short amount of time, relatively speaking. And I do take feedback quite seriously. Of course, I won't listen to everything, but if I think I can fit someone's idea or uh, change something based on someone's critique, then I'll at least try it. And if I feel like it doesn't work, then you know there's not much of a loss there. I'll just try something else or do it how I was doing it before.
Have you ever got into like have you ever got like quite far into a piece and decided you're thinking this idea doesn't really work very well? You're having to scrap it. Has ever gotten to that stage before?
Maybe, but not like super late. If I most of the time when I shade something, I completely intend to finish it. I do have like a couple of abandoned sketches, abandoned for various reasons.
For myself, when it comes to working on stuff, like a lot of the time I keep most of the things that I make, but there have been like one or two occasions where I could think of where like I've gotten reasonably far into a project, but like it never really went anywhere. So I spent like several weeks on something for it to not go anywhere, if that makes sense.
What do you mean by it? You felt like it wasn't going anywhere?
When I say like it wasn't going anywhere, like it was basically I was approaching an idea where it was sort of it wasn't really fully formed, but I still went ahead with it anyway. If that makes sense, it got to a point where like I put these little scraps of ideas together, and I looked at the whole thing, and it was just. I don't I don't know I don't know where this is actually going, what I want to actually say with this piece, or what the actual point of it was. So it's sort of a case where like I modelled a few assets, like put a few bits and pieces together, and it didn't actually go anywhere. So I've ended up having to scrap the project a couple of times. This was a few months ago where I did something like that. I've still got the files. I can still do something with them, but that's probably the most extreme example where I could think of where it wasn't worth pursuing it any further, if that makes sense. So it can be quite demoralising in some ways if you get to a certain point and you just you think that this is a complete waste of time. But yeah, so I don't know whether that's common amongst other artists, but that. It has happened to me in terms of like the 3D space, but it's a bit so I think the name of the day is certainly planning. I think like it's better to plan something well in advance before you um start to put things together. It was, but I think it was and it was also a case of like trying to make something for the sake of it as well. That was part of the reason why it was a project where I've just filed it away and like never did anything with. So just hope it hasn't happened to you, like to that extent anyway.
Thankfully, no, because I do plan most of my stuff, and I find that planning kind of avoids that feeling that you have where you're questioning what am I trying to achieve with this piece because you've already thought of that beforehand. But that being said, I'm not one of those people who say like every single art piece needs to have like a deeper hidden meaning because that's kind of just nonsense, right? It doesn't have to be that deep. It just has to be like carefully put together, even if it's simple, and also have like a clear focus, I guess. And again, it doesn't have to be a deeper meaning. It doesn't even have to be like a theme. You could kind of like you could. I don't know what I'm trying to say with this. Hold on a second.
I know what you're saying. Like a lack of focus on something. I totally understand where you're coming from on that one. So, is that quite a common thing? Like some people maybe like try to give their particular piece they're working on a purpose, I suppose, when it doesn't really need to, and like if you do that, it can sort of ruin the whole thing because you lose your way. It happened with me anyway. I totally understand it if it's happened with a lot of other people, but I don't know how common that actually is.
I wouldn't know if it was common or not, but like I said, it doesn't have to be like a theme. You could kind of just think, okay, this piece I primarily want to show off my lighting skills, or I want to in my case, I want to show off like my technical drawing skills of cars or whatever it is, you know. Even like my complex pieces kind of started off as like a simple idea when I developed it a bit more, and as it develops, that's where the complexity kind of came in, and that's when I decided to do the actual pre-planning. Do you think an example would be helpful?
I think so. Yes.
I'll probably talk about like my Fallout piece because I've already mentioned the Scootaloo one. Despite its complexity, it actually started out as like a simple idea. Uh, I just felt like drawing Little Pippa and Blackjack, and then I said, "Hey, why don't I make this a more elaborate piece?" Then I thought, I'll make it a car pin-up, but what car could I pair with those two? And then kind of looked into things more. Then came across the Cherry Bomb or slash Rocket 69. Nice, but yeah. And I suppose Fallout never has really been about cars, but it's the one car from Fallout 4 that people would probably recognize because it's also been in Forza Motorsport as a drivable car.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, which is it's interesting. And I thought it would make for a interesting car pin-up, and then from there I kind of decided, okay, where do I want them to be? Because I'm gonna do a background for this, and I kind of thought about different locations, and I decided to keep it relatively simple and just put them in front of the Red Rocket bus stop. But even that required a lot of planning as well. I thought about, okay, where do I want the car to go? So I kind of loaded up Fallout 4 and looked around the bus stop, and I mean, there wasn't that many options. It'd just be like where I put it, or a bit further down the road, or maybe underneath the roof, or maybe in the garage. But there weren't that too many options. But after I decided where I wanted to go, I took like a lot of in-game screenshots to make it reasonably accurate to how it looks in game, and that's where the complexity kind of came in because I'd consider me taking those screenshots as part of the pre-planning process. So you see how it starts off with a simple idea, but then the complexity develops later.
It starts building up once you think, oh, how am I going to actually put this together? Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of like my complex but good ideas kind of started out as well. It started small, like as small as like, oh, what character do I feel like drawing today, or what car? Sometimes I think of a car first, or you know.
And like it's paid off. It's like it's one of your flagship pieces next to the Scootaloo one. It's I don't know whether I said which one was your out of the two. I flip between back and forth. I do like that the Scootaloo one's got like an amazing amount of detail, like micro details that I like. But the Fallout one is an awesome juxtaposition. You got like the new shiny car with in front of like a really ruined backdrop because it's Fallout, obviously. So I don't know. I flip between which one's my favourite out of the two, but yeah, both of those are really good.
I was initially worried about that actually. Like, I was worried that it wouldn't work out, but it's still technically possible because somewhere in Nuka World there's a Rocket 69 that's locked up in a vault somewhere. That's pristine. I was considering like making the car look rusted and smashed up a bit, but I decided against that once I did a bit more digging.
Yeah, I don't know whether the piece would be as appealing if you actually did do that. Like, because you'd lose that contrast, I suppose, if you opted to keep it like rusty, as opposed to like brand new. It might not have worked as well, but I don't know. It would be interesting, maybe, if you wanted to. Could you actually go back and make those changes if you wanted to?
Yeah, I still have the project file.
As long as you got like the project files, you can still go in and like make those changes if you wanted to. Might be an interesting contrast just to try it, just to see if it would have worked out as an alternative version, I suppose.
I think it worked out fine, and I feel like I don't really need to go back because the contrast works. It also ironically makes the car stand out more.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? It's a shiny vehicle in like a torn up, broken backdrop. We got like the Red Rocket. Is it the Red Rocket? Is it called the Red Rocket Garage or whatever it is?
Red
It's the
Rocket.
first
Yep.
Yeah, it's the first location that you come across after you leave the first Good Springs. My brother's playing Fallout 4 literally right now as I'm recording this, so it's relevant.
I think in Fallout 4, it's not Good Springs, it's Sanctuary.
Oh, Sanctuary. Oh, yes, sorry. Good
Good
Springs is.
Springs is New Vegas.
Oh, yes, it is. Of course, it is. Oh, I'm getting them all mixed up now, like mixed up memories. Oh
It
man,
happens. It happens.
New Vegas is the one that like resonates with me more. But Fallout 4 is a really good game. You're currently playing that? No, you're not. You're playing New Vegas, aren't you, on your streams?
Yeah.
Mod. Where can people check out your streams? By the way, you stream on a weekend basis, like playing through your games.
Yeah, I mostly stream on the weekends, occasionally in the week for art streams, but I tend to not play or not do game streams during the week. I stream both on Picarto, although I've had thoughts of like separating the gaming stuff onto Twitch. I'm not sure if I'll follow through with that, but it's something I've thought about.
Maybe, I was thinking maybe, yeah, it might be worth doing that because maybe you get more traction on Twitch because it's more gaming related. But again, I haven't, I haven't done like that sort of stuff in years. I used to make stuff for YouTube like going back 10 years ago now, plus now. I used to make stuff, but like it never really went anywhere. It was I sort of missed that boat, I suppose, in terms of streaming stuff. And like I never do stuff live anyway because I flub things up all the time. It wouldn't be very good for me to do that kind of stuff. I don't know whether I could make it compelling for me to do that, but so you currently stream on Picarto. Do you do art streams first and then you play the games, or is it the other way around?
Normally depends on what I feel like doing first. Sometimes I'll play games on a Friday, do art on Saturday, art on Sunday. It depends on like how I feel, but I think there might be some sort of benefit to having some sort of formalized schedule. It makes it a bit easier for people to follow along. But regardless, I've noticed that quite a few people have been joining in on the streams. Art streams mainly, but I've had a couple of New Vegas streams where there are like 7, 8 people watching, even if it's for a few minutes or so, which is nice. Also have people interacting with you in chat.
I will put links to Clear Vision stuff in the show notes if you want to go check out his streams. His streams on the weekends games and artworks on Picarto. What's there? So with Picarto, like, is there any restrictions on not safe for work content, or can you post? I'm not sure what the rule is with that. Is there restrictions in terms of like what you can stream on that platform?
Yes, but you can stream not safe for work stuff on there. I mean, there must be restrictions, but the reason why I stream there rather than on Twitch is because Twitch would not allow the kind of things that I draw.
No, that's the thing. Like, you got to be careful of what you stream. So yeah, I think Picarto's probably your best bet on that front. So do go check out his streams, folks. It will be in the show notes, and of course, where's the best place to follow your artwork? You post on quite a few places. You've Derpy Brewer, of course, is one of the main ones. Twitter, any of the main ones that you post on as well.
I mean, that's mostly it for the time being. Darkrover on Twitter. I do have a Fur Affinity account, but like I put out a journal post on there saying that I'm boycotting the site until they make those promised changes from the roadmap to help improve artist discovery and also just the general usability of the website. I feel like Fur Affinity is just on a whole another level in terms of like being bad for artists. And like I've said that in the journal itself. I've been on there since 2018, about the same time I had Derpy Borrow, and yet I only have God knows how many followers, like only 250, maybe 300. All of my stuff gets basically no engagement. Even some of the more popular images that I've done gets almost no engagement. Like I've never seen like triple digit number of views, which is kind of shocking.
Have they mentioned anything about being able to upload a photo or resolution bigger than a postage stamp yet?
Uh, it's been mentioned, but I'm not sure when that's gonna actually be coming. So
720p is dog
I'm not
shit, dude.
I'm just I have to make a separate image for Fur Affinity alone
Yep,
most of the time.
ditto, and I hate it.
I cannot be. I mean, Twitter compresses stuff as well, but it will do that for you, even though there's like a size limit. But the size limit is not is like mind-blowingly small.
Even it's weird. I think Twitter is. I think it's 5 MB, but there's the resolution. There's no resolution cap. I don't think. Well, it's bigger than Fur Affinities. That's for goddamn sure.
No, it's not. It's big. It's bigger than 5 MB for sure. I've uploaded.
Unless it might be just a tweak deck restriction. Then I could be wrong. I must be wrong on that then.
If you upload to Twitter directly, I think it might be like 20 or 25 MB file size.
Yeah. But Fur Affinity's 10 MB, 720p. That's the big. That's your lot, mate. It's terrible, absolutely terrible. I have to I have to like in Blender. I have to like spend my GPU time like rendering out like a crappy 720p edit, so it fits within their restrictions. It's I don't know why I bother.
You'll probably just get away with just taking like the full res image and just downsizing that in like a photo editing software or whatever.
I could, but like it's more steps, isn't it? That's the point. It's more. I upload. I think I usually upload in 2K on Derpy Brew, 4K on DeviantArt. That's the high res version, and then on Fur Affinity I have to basically whatever fits within 10 MB. So it could be a 1080p version, it could be a 2K version, but like a lot of the time it's a little bit too big, so I have to like use the lower resolution version and upload that instead, which is it's just kind of irritating. But I want to look at that roadmap. I didn't even know they had a roadmap for Affinity, but I'll have to look into that.
It's in one of Dragonair's journals.
That site has always had always had strange issues with like admins and things like that, and not being able to upload like and the resolution for display images is terrible as well. You have to shrink it down to like about like 100 pixels by 100 pixels. Any bigger than that, it won't let you have it, which is even more irritating. So you have to like fiddle around just to get the image to fit within its constraints before it works. It's not user friendly, put it that way.
Fur Affinity is the only website, at least from what I've used, that is both bad for posting art, bad for browsing art, also bad for artist discovery. All three.
All three. 0 out of 10.
It is just so bad, and I've just had enough. I'm just not haven't posted any of my newer stuff on there, and I won't do so until those changes have been made.
So you dislike it even more than Twitter then?
Yeah, I mean, like Twitter still has positives. I can't really think of any positives of Fair Affinity that I couldn't get elsewhere, apart from the amount of furry artwork that's on there. That's probably the only positive. I'm really. What other thing could I say if I'm trying to stretch this?
You've got Fair Affinity, of course. That's the main site for furry stuff. And the only other one I can think of is E621. I think it's called.
Yep.
That's the. But I've come across it before, but I don't know what it's like for pony stuff. So I don't know. I have toyed with the idea of making an account and uploading on there, but I don't know whether if MLP stuff is popular or tolerated, I should say, on there. I don't know. I couldn't really have I don't know whether if you've posted anything on there. I'm not sure.
I do have stuff on there, but it's not posted by myself. There's someone who's posting some of my art on there with my permission. So
Oh, that's cool. You've delegated to somebody else.
my stuff is on there, but it's not managed by me. So uh, as for whether MLP stuff is tolerated or liked, a couple of my pictures on there seem to have done relatively okay, but I'm not sure what the benchmark would be, so to speak. Uh,
What's the engagement like? Do you get comments on them and stuff? I'm curious on that one.
I've just brought up my page just to have a look. My most liked image is the nude version of Kitty Catswell. Princess Ember did pretty well. Uh, Smolder did pretty well. The picture of Zip did pretty well. Uh, and in terms of like comments and stuff, I noticed there's a fair amount of comments on like the car pictures. So
I don't. I'm toying with the idea of like expanding onto another website. I might do that actually. I have to have a think about that. And if it's might be an avenue worth looking into.
I think C621 is also kind of like an art archival site, not really something for artist discovery, which is a recurring theme. While we're on the topic of E621, there's a couple of comments on here saying like, "Oh, I thought this was 3D," which is kind of funny. I mean, I've kind of had that. I've had that comment on other places as well, but it kind of makes me feel good in a way because that's kind of what I'm going for with my art style.
You've gotten to the point where like people could have mistaken it for 3D rendering. That's pretty cool.
I mean, obviously it doesn't. You can tell that it's hand drawn once you like open it up, but like at a thumbnail side, you probably legitimately couldn't tell. But maybe at some point in the future, I'll be able to improve my art skills and make it almost indistinguishable, even if you look close. I'm not sure if people would see the value in that, but I kind of some of it is novelty, some of it is also because you know if you're hand drawing stuff, then technically there's no limit as to what you can do besides your own artistic skills. The same can also be said for 3D if you can model 3D stuff, but with 2D you can also you still have the ability to take some liberty so that it looks a bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like both mediums have their like have their appeal, don't they? And I guess with 3D stuff, I don't know whether it's accurate for me to say it, but I don't know whether it's because like with 3D, you certainly, especially like if you're just starting out, it's a lot more. You've got to put a hell of a lot more work into 3D to make it look really really good. Like because there's a lot more. Yeah, you really have to learn how like the software works. I suppose you're more relying on like knowing what parameters to You're more of a programmer, I suppose. Really, closer to it, I suppose. But as a 2D artist, you're more. You have to be more technically skilled yourself, and you have to be more skilled in terms of like where to put the pen and like where to put the strokes and how much pressure to apply and stuff like that. And both mediums have their merits. Like it's more of I guess it's more of a personal preference, what people tend to go for. A lot of it with 3D stuff, like especially if you're starting out, because like you have to use like a lot of assets that have already been like used like millions and millions and millions of times. because when you're first starting out, you don't really know how to make your own assets and things. That comes later if you decide to pursue that. But like it's that's probably like the biggest issue with 3D stuff at the moment. It's not quite. It's probably not as like accessible as maybe learning how to draw by hand, like traditionally, or into a drawing tablet, I suppose. But I don't know what your viewpoint is on that. But I'm just speaking as like someone who just still doesn't know how to operate the lights properly in a 3D program. I'm just complaining.
The way that you stand out with free artwork, if you're using other people's assets, is the way that you handle post processing, usually.
Like in terms of how you're making the final render look and making final changes after the fact.
Yeah, how you stand out, at least from what I know.
Do you yourself use a lot of post processing, or do you get that all baked in as a final product? You don't, or do you? How do you do, like, once you come to the end of a project? Do you add a lot of add any post processing effects to the end of it, or do you just have like one final piece and then like off you go?
I guess on a technical level, I do have some post processing in some of my pictures. It's mostly around like light sources to make them look like they're actually glowing.
A lot of people can be a bit snooty when it comes to post processing. Like it's considered, some people consider it cheating. I don't quite understand that mindset. If you're using something to make a piece look better, then why not? Why not use things like bloom and things like that? I don't understand like why there's a bit of a pushback against it. If you're using like an external program to add like an extra flourish here and there, then why not use that? If it makes the art more appealing or attractive, then why not do that? But I have heard that argument used before. Do you agree with the notion that using post-processing is cheating? What's your view on that?
Uh, Definitely not. But I suppose the way post processing. Okay, there we
Yeah.
go. The way post
Got there in the end.
processing works with like 3D stuff might be different to the way that how I do it. I guess like my quote unquote post processing is like having additional layers on top of like the drawing where like I'll have like extra glow around light sources, and that's kind of more or less what I do. Like I don't do anything else because other bits of post processing that you do, maybe like levels or something, I could kind of just incorporate that into the drawing itself because it's my shading. But you know, like things like bloom, I still kind of put in manually using extra layers over the top of everything, if that makes sense.
Yes, like directly within the program itself. You don't like export like a render, and that you don't usually export a final render and then like make additional edits in external program. You usually do everything within the same program, and then before you export it.
Um, I mean, I don't export the image first and add a post processing. That's kind of like why I put post processing in inverted commas, quotation marks. It's kind of like I layer my stuff and I use a lot of layers, but my post processing is just like the stuff that's on top of everything, including the line art. That's kind of how I get the glowing effects on some light sources. And then once I'm done with that, I'll export everything. I guess it's technically not post processing, but it's a similar process in terms of like what I'm doing. Like I'm adding bloom to the image. I might be changing some sort of or adding some sort of lighting effects.
Is it still? It's. I don't think it's. I don't know whether it's classed as post processing in a different sense if you're making 3D stuff or as opposed to making 2D stuff. But like, I just find it a bit odd that some people find using post processing as a form of cheat, which doesn't make any sense to me. But that's another bloody rabbit hole in of itself, isn't it? But I don't think you can convince everybody on that argument, but I think we'll leave that for another day. I think. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I hope to have you on. Have you on once again. Put my teeth. Hope to have you on once again in the future. As I say, if you want to check out Clear Vision stuff, please do feel free to check out all his links in the show notes. You can follow him on Twitter, Clear Vision Arts. You can follow him on Derpy Buru, and of course, you're not posting on Fur Affinity at the moment. but Twitter's the other, Twitter and Derby are the main places you can check out his art. Picarto, you can follow him on Picarto to follow his game streams and his art streams. Is it usually on the weekends you usually stream? People can check out your stuff.
Actually, I do have something quick to add about Picarto. Like, you actually can upload art pieces there. They added a gallery function somewhat recently, and I have my car pin-ups on there, most of them, but I need to continue adding more stuff, so just thought I'd advert.
Please do check out his stuff, folks. So check out his Twitter, check out his art, check out his game streams. I'll put all the links in the show notes, so you can know where to navigate to. And thank you to everybody who, before we wrap up, thank you to everybody who gave me some really nice feedback on my new podcast title card. Actually got it finished 2 years after the original one was made. It's taken me so long to get around to actually making it, but I'm pleased I've actually updated the damn thing, and I am in the process of sorting out some sort of Discord community thing. I don't know what sort of form that's going to take yet. That's in the works, but appreciate all the support, folks. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We'll see you guys next time, and thank you very much, Clear Vision, for joining me once again. I hope to have you on once again in the future. We'll see you guys next time.
All right, thank you. Goodbye.